Hello, I'm Sergeant Gamble with Family Programs, and today I'm going to be putting on some DTS training for properly inputting your invitational travel and dependent invitational travel. Myself and Mr. Mead have put these slides together, so hopefully they will help you moving forward. The agenda for today's slides will have reference materials, types of authorizations, creating a dependent authorization, and ETPs. Here are the references we used on putting this together and also may assist you in inputting DTS. The Invitational Travel Procedures Guide, the Joint Travel Regulations, DTS Reference Library, and the DoD Training and Resource Center. There are two types of authorizations. The first one is invitational travel. An invitational travel authorization uses government funds to pay for non-DoD employees' travel. This would be used for like a volunteer or someone not associated with a Guard member. The process for ITAs begins when the organization identifies a need for an ITA eligible individual to travel at DoD's expense. Processing of invitational travel is with mutual consent, meaning the organization must invite the person to travel and the person must accept the invitation. Dependent invitational travel is for family members of a DoD employee. To note, the sponsor receives reimbursement for the dependent's transportation and approved travel expenses at the banking information located in the DTS for that individual sponsor. The first step is you'll want to create an authorization in DTS. You'll start by clicking on the blue box that says create new document, and then that'll populate your next screens where you'll have your create your itinerary, where you'll fill in the information of their arriving, departing, where they're going, how they're traveling, time of day, and the rental car as appropriate. And then you'll have your trip overview, which should then show a lot of the information you just inputted, just to making sure that it's correct. And then when it says leaving from and returning to on the block on the right, you want to make sure the traveler, if it's the dependent, make sure that it's where the dependent is traveling from, not the address for the soldier if it is different. So you just want to make sure that is correct before moving forward. Then on the next screen that would populate is your trip details. You'll see the drop-down box, and this is where you'll select whether it's invitational travel or dependent invitational travel. And then you would click the purpose for training. And then if it is a dependent invitational travel, you'll have to click the blue Add Dependents. You'll see in the next slide how to properly do that. And then you want to make sure you have the 11-step trip description fully detailed in this block as well. And you can find this usually in the MOI published in what they're looking for and how it should be outlined. So if you have to add a dependent, when you click that little blue icon, this is a screen that'll pop up. There's some information that you'll want to put in all these blocks. The only required information is the stuff with the red asterisk, so it would be the full name and then their date of birth. All the others are optional, but if you have the information, go ahead and put that in. And then once all the information is accurate in there, you can then hit the create button. And then down below where it says select an existing dependent, their information should populate, and that'll be shown on the next slide. After you have clicked on the create blue button down below, it'll populate the traveler, so it should then show their name, relationship, date of birth. If you need to make any corrections to any of that, there's the two radial buttons below actions there. You can delete it or edit that traveler. And if this is the traveler you want to select to add to the dependent travel, you would click the blue radial button and select it. Then you'll want to hit save down below to save that traveler into the DTS. Next, you want to select lodging for the traveler. There's two types of way to do this. It'll basically be directed in your MOI on whether they can have a hotel of their choice or if they're being directed to a specific hotel per the MOI, because that's where the conference is going to be and they have a government room rate already blocked. If it's a hotel that's out on the economy, they can stay wherever, and you can search the listings down below where you can select the lodging that is in the government DTS rates. If the MOI states they're supposed to go to a specific hotel, then you'll want to click the skip booking up at the top. If you didn't skip booking and selected a hotel from the drop-down, you'll be brought to this tab where it'll show the hotel that you selected, the check-in, check-out dates. It also has the amount per night. If the amount per night is highlighted in red, that means it's over the per diem amount allowed for that area. And you can still stay in that hotel. However, you'll only be authorized reimbursement for the amount up to the per diem rate for the area. The other thing you'll want to check on this page is the method of payment. You'll want to make sure that it's not on the government travel card, because the dependents will not use the government travel card, as the hotel should be reserved in the dependent's name. And same for ITAs, they won't have a government travel card to use. So if everything looks good on this page, then you go ahead and select book down in the bottom right corner. Next, under the expenses tab, you need to add the mileage to the venue from the traveler's home of record, not the soldier, for the dependents, especially if the dependent does not live with the soldier. And then invitational travel, obviously you'd want to do it from their home of record. So you would click on add new and then filter it down till you find the mileage expense, and then click the blue arrow. Once you click the blue arrow on the previous slide, you'll then be brought to this tab. You'll then select your type of transportation, which most likely be private auto to and from TDY. And then you'll input the start location using the zip code. DTS uses zip codes to determine mileage. So if there's more than one city associated with that zip code, you'll want to scroll until you find the correct city that matches with that zip code. And then you'll do the same for the end location. Find the zip code and city that matches where you're going. Just note that when putting in the start location, make sure it is the home of record of the traveler and not the sponsor or soldier if you're using dependent travel, should that be different. And then once it is correct, you go ahead and click add. And then you'll want to do the same process over again to get the return trip mileage back home, and just flip-flop your start and end locations to add that return trip mileage. There's one other expense you'll most likely want to add to your authorization. You do it in the same process of going under your expenses tab and then select lodging expenses, and you'll want to add the hotel tax estimation, as that will not be on the authorization. So you'll want to make sure that is included as well for your trip. Next, you're going to review your per diem amounts. Two things to look at on this page are your lodging cost and your meals. First, your lodging amount. That'll be input based on, if you skip booking, it's going to put in the max allowable rate for that area. And if you selected a hotel from the list, it should input that amount that they're going to be charging you in that block. So for skipping booking, you can adjust the per diem amounts to the amount that's listed in the MOI by clicking the blue adjust per diem button up top and input the correct lodging cost in there. And then for meals, as you'll see, there's 3 blue dots on the right hand side of each day. If you need to adjust any of the meals because any of them are provided, you can add or delete or take those away under those icons. And then at the bottom, it should show your total lodging and meals. If everything looks good, then you can move forward by clicking continue at the bottom. So if you have to adjust any per diem amounts, once you click that blue button on the previous slide, this will populate. And this is where you can do all your editing of your meals and your lodging. So you can adjust the date range for which you want to change. So if it's the full duration of the stay, you can put in the full dates there. Down below is where you can input the actual cost of the lodging if it's stated in your MOI. And then you can also adjust your meals, whether or not they're receiving the full meal rate, or if it's going to be certain meals need to be taken off. And then on the right hand side, you want to make sure it doesn't have the government CC to the individual as the method of reimbursement, since the government travel card will not be utilized for either the invitational or dependent travel. And then if everything is good and how you want it, then go ahead and click Save Adjustments. The next slide should bring you to the accounting tab in your authorization. This is where you're going to input the line of accounting that should be spelled out in your MOI, and that's where it should be found. You can search for it under the shared LOA. That's where most of them are found. Once you found it, click on it and then hit the Add LOA. Next, you'll be brought to the review trip authorization screen. On this one, you just basically want to review everything to make sure everything looks accurate and correct based on the travel that the person is going to be doing. So just review everything thoroughly to make sure everything's on here, all your expenses and dates and locations match up. This is a further review trip authorization screen that'll have your other expenses, substantiating documents, your per diem amounts, your accounting. This is where you can see if your line of accounting took on the previous screens. And then your estimated trip costs for that traveler will be outlined here as well for everything that they should be getting reimbursed for. If everything looks accurate and correct, then you can go ahead and click continue. The next screen is the other Auths and pre-audits. Some of this information will auto-populate and others you'll have to add. You should see the travels for a family member for dependent travel. There's nothing you need to do in this block. The lodging not used, you'll have to fill this in if you skip booking. You have to put a reason code. It's usually L12 in the drop-down when you click the add reason code button. And then the justification to approving official is you can just state per the MOI you were directed to stay at this specific hotel. Construct your travel worksheet. This won't be needed as long as the travel originates from Minnesota and is less than 4 miles one way. And if that is the case, you can just put NA. And then you'll also have to add the other comment, which is in regards to the use of the government travel card. You'll have to put this comment below stating whether or not the traveler does or does not have a travel card. And being that it's invitational travel or dependent travel, you'll want to put does not have a travel card for that justification. And then you may see the fiscal year funds comment. That's only if we're operating under a continuing resolution. So once everything has been reviewed and everything is accurate and correct for your authorization that you want on there, you will then go ahead and sign the document. And then you'll want to select the correct routing list. You'll probably find the routing list that you should route your authorization through in your MOI. Once you have selected the correct routing list, you'll then want to submit completed document, the big green box down below, and that will submit your authorization to be moved forward for review and approval. Finally, exceptions to policies. ITAs require approval by CNGB, which may be delegated to TAG per the JTR. And any other ETPs, refer to your MOI if it states you need an ETP for any type of your travel. Some examples for reasons why ETPs could be required for any specific event is if you're traveling from outside of Minnesota, traveling more than 150 miles one way and requesting 2 nights lodging, or traveling by air. But again, your MOI will dictate and state whether you need to have an ETP submitted for the traveler. Finally, are just some common errors we see with ITA and dependent authorizations. One is the use of the government travel card. All payments and reimbursements should be personal credit card or personal banking information through DTS, since neither traveler will have a government travel card. Next is the location mismatch between the itinerary location and then the expense for mileage. Just make sure those match up and you're using the correct home of record for the traveler when calculating mileage expenses. Also, make sure the banking information is updated and correct in the profile for the traveler or the sponsor, should it be a dependent travel. That way the payments get sent to the right bank and we don't get any EFT returns for those. And lastly, any unauthorized expenses, we see a lot of times, just make sure the traveler knows that they can't get anything from the minibar or charge anything to their hotel room and expect to have those expenses reimbursed. And just make sure they're aware that they're only authorized the expenses in the authorization only and nothing else. This includes the DTS training for properly inputting invitational travel and dependent invitational travel into DTS. I hope these slides are beneficial and will help you inputting your authorizations. If you do have any further questions or concerns or need help with anything, feel free to give myself, Master Gamble, or Mr. Mead a call at the numbers below or emails. We'd be happy to help and assist you. Thanks and have a great day.